Fox Sports.
We are Black We are Sun
Yesterday at Fenway Park, the Rays looked as if they were on the brink of their fourth consecutive defeat until the bats came alive in the eighth inning. Then right-hander Brad Boxberger slammed the door to the ninth as Tampa Bay rallied for a 4-3 victory. Tonight, the Rays head to the Windy City, where prize prospect Richie Schaefer will make his MLB debut. After pulling out a victory yesterday in Boston, the Rays road trip takes them to the city of the big shoulders, Chicago, Illinois. This will be game one of a three-game series between the Rays and the White Sox. The Rays making big news by promoting their first-round pick of 2012, Richie Schaefer, to the major leagues. He will be in the lineup, hitting sixth and playing first base tonight. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to an evening of Rays baseball with Brian Anderson. I'm Dwayne Stats. Great to have you aboard. Thanks for looking in. Well, the Rays did show some offense in Boston. That's part of the good news coming out of that series. And showing signs of an offensive revival is Evan Longoria.
Well, Dwayne, he's getting it done. I mean, you go over Evan Longoria's last 9 games, and the average is good, on-base percentage is good, but better news than even that is the fact that half of his hits during that time span have gone for extra bases, and that is the recipe for success for this Rays offense. If they want to continue to score runs consistently, they need to have this guy hot. They need to have him hot with the extra base hit. He's been doing that well as of late. He had a tremendous trip into Boston, and we'll see if he can continue it here in Chicago.
Evan in his familiar number 3 spot in the Rays lineup, and they'll be facing a lefty tonight against Southpaws this year. He's hitting .316, 3 home runs and 13 runs batted in. Again, Richie Schaefer gets the call to the major leagues. Todd Callis will have a get-together with Schaefer when we return.
between the Rays and the White Sox in the Major League debut of Rays first baseman and third baseman Richie Schaefer, who just 3 years ago was their #1 overall pick in the June draft out of Clemson University. This year, he's put up really nice numbers. Started the year at AA Montgomery, where he struggled last year. Packed on 24 pounds of muscle and got leaned out in the offseason. You see those 23 home runs. Only 4 minor leaguers have more home runs than Richie. Before the game, we asked him how long it's been since he's been dreaming of this day.
I mean, the dream started from day one when I was able to walk and then hold a wiffle ball bat in the basement of my house. My dad was flipping me wiffle balls in the basement. But I think realistically, once I was thinking, maybe this could be a future. I think it was probably in high school. I was the backup JV quarterback on the football team, and I starting first baseman on the baseball team, and I was like, all right, maybe this football thing's not going to work out. The baseball thing might be okay. And then just sort of continue to progress. And, I was always pushed hard by my dad and my high school coaches and, continue to work hard. And then my college coaches kept pushing me. So, the dream's always been there. The realistic, mindset of this could be a possibility, I think, started next week.
Wearing the number 36, he will be batting in the number 6 spot in the Rays order and playing first base tonight against the left-hander Jose Quintana. He'll be opposed by Nathan Carnes. We will have all the action with the first pitch and starting lineup right around the corner. Enjoy the action on Sun Sports.
The Rays in Chicago from U.S. Cellular Field. Their first trip in here against the White Sox this year after sweeping Chicago at Tropicana Field. Tonight's lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Brandon Geyer's going to lead it off, followed by Joey Butler, who is the DH. Evan Longoria hits third in front of Logan Forsythe, as Drupal Cabrera's the shortstop, and Richie Schaefer in there at first base hitting sixth. Mikey Montook is in right field tonight, batting seventh in front of Kevin Kiermaier. Kurt Casale will do the catching and hit ninth.
Well, taking the mound tonight for the Chicago White Sox, left-hander Jose Quintana. And I'll tell you something, this Chicago team, on their most recent road trip, they went 7-1. They swept the Cleveland Indians and took 3 out of 4 from the Boston Red Sox. Quintana had a tremendous trip, a shutout, 7-hit shutout of the Cleveland Indians, and went 6 1/3, giving up 2 earned runs in a win against the Boston Red Sox. Let's take a look at the White Sox defense and see how it's going to line up behind Jose here tonight. Brought to you by BMW. In the outfield left to right, we have Melky Cabrera, Adam Eaton, and Aviseo Garcia. Across the infield third to first, Tyler Saladino, Alexi Ramirez, Carlos Sanchez, and Adam LaRoche with Tyler Flowers behind the plate.
Rays running fourth in the American League East. Still relevant in the wild card chase. And likewise for the Chicago White Sox, fourth in the Central, and they're relevant in the wild card race. First pitch of this game presented by Pinch-A-Penny. It's a fastball, and in there, a strike on the outside part of the plate. It's inside to Geyer. The count is a ball and a strike. It'll be interesting tonight with David Rackley behind the plate calling the balls and strikes. He's likely to go wide off the plate to right-handed hitters, but boy, he doesn't give the pitcher many other advantages. In fact, that strike zone can get very small with him back there, with the exception of the pitch well off the plate. Count goes to 2-2.
That will be the pitch to take a look at. You know, when you took me, into that little closet where you keep your little heat maps on these guys, and you showed me the breakout on Rackley. It's the pitch in to the right-handed hitter that doesn't get called with much frequency. And so,
right there.
Yeah, and here's the thing: Quintana likes to pitch in, and so that's going to be an area that we'll have to see. Is it being called? And if it's not, does he start to move towards that outer edge and make the adjustment?
3-2 now to Geyer. Tapper down to third. Saladino makes the throw. Geyer's out number one.
Quintana's going to attack these Rays hitters. He's got a firm fastball. He's going to cut it, a breaking ball, and a changeup. Pretty standard stuff, but he does like to keep the right-handed hitters honest with the fastball and the cutter in.
One up, one down. Here's Joey Butler, the designated hitter. Rays come into this game 18-11 in games started by a lefty. And while they're hitting .240 overall as a team, hitting a little over .250 against lefties. Butler starts the night at .279. Kevin Cash and the Rays 2 games under .500 right now at 52 and 54. Up the middle, sharply hit a fastball, and the Rays have a base runner. Take a look at the wild card standings. Starting play tonight. How about this? With Minnesota losing, the Rays are 2.5 back of that second wild card spot, and the White Sox 3 back.
This is going to be a fascinating race. With what the Blue Jays did, they won today. David Price pitched today. He was tremendous. They hit a couple of home runs in support. It's the game you envisioned if you were a Blue Jay fan, executive player, when you got David Price. But then you got all those teams, so you got to climb over some teams, but you're all bunched up. A bad series here, a bad series there, and you could be right up.
Which team can get hot again and stay hot for 2 or 3 weeks? So far, the only teams that have done that, well, they're in first place in their divisions. The wild card chase, something else.
Absolutely wide open. And you're right. You can put together a week and a half worth of games. Put yourself in really good position.
1-1 to count to Evan Longoria. Rays trying to get something accomplished here in the first. The White Sox have allowed 77 first inning runs. They're tied for most runs allowed in the first inning in Major League Baseball. It's a strike. Longoria now behind in the count. Blue Jays, Rockies, and the White Sox tied, giving up first inning runs, and it has turned Robin Ventura's beard gray already.
I got some stuff for that. But anyway, no, you're absolutely right. That's a tough way to play, too. Always being down, seeming, in the first inning, you go out there, it's so demoralizing to go out on defense, and all of a sudden, here we are playing catch-up as soon as you come in to hit. But I'll tell you what, this is not the same Chicago White Sox team that the Rays swept back in June. A different ball club, and they're playing very well right now.
Yeah, different feel on this team, too.
Well, they've gotten themselves back into that bunch.
They were at one point 10 games under 500. And while they're still not to the 500 mark, they're 3 games under now. Marked improvement. Longoria takes the count full.
Well, they were handled over the weekend by the Yankees. The Yankees took 2 out of 3, but prior to that road trip where they went 7-1 on a road trip through Cleveland and Boston really has buoyed the spirits of this team. And you're right, it's got a different vibe.
Runner goes 3-2 is pop foul that will carry into the stands. Rays had Butler on the move off of first.
I really like when managers, in this case Kevin Cash, does something like that early. Butler's not a guy who typically runs, but early in a series you're sending a message. Hey, Chicago, we're here to win, we're here to play aggressive.
Line shot into left. There's a base hit. 2 hops to Cabrera, and the Rays have put 2 men aboard with 1 out.
Well, and everything would have worked out well there for the Rays in getting Butler to third base, except for the fact that Evan Longoria hit this ball too hard. That full count fastball down and in, well, you love to see him turn and burn on the hard stuff, and he hit a missile that got to Cabrera too quick to get Butler to third.
Now it's Logan Forsythe. Not a lot of at-bats for the Rays against Jose Quintana. Forsythe has 3 at-bats, 2 hits, 1 of those a home run. Logan 12 home runs on the year. Down and in. Flowers moving to his left. The most recent home run for Logan Forsythe came Saturday at Fenway Park. He had a fastball out to left. Runner at second base, Butler. He singled into center. Longoria followed with a base hit into left. There's a strike. It's 1-1.
Boy, that's the pitch that Quintana had better be careful with. If he's going to pound these Rays hitters in with that heater and you let them leak back out across the plate, those are the ones that hitters do damage on.
Down to right side, fair. By the bag and up the line. Butler will score. Into third base goes Longoria. Ball loose on the throw back in, but it's backed up. Forsythe with a double driving in a run, and the Rays take the lead.
Well, it did not take very long at all. Logan Forsythe, a nice job of staying inside that baseball. He has such a good feel right now for hitting. When to turn, when to stay inside and go the other way, and he lets that ball get into the zone, and then watch him just shoot the hands, stay inside the baseball, go up the right side. Had some room to work with. And a productive double there for Forsythe as it scores the Rays' first run.
2 more men in scoring position now for Asdrubal Cabrera. Cabrera misses the fastball, strike 1. Aggressive up there with men in scoring position.
Yeah, and you can see that this Rays lineup already has been coached up on the fact that Quintana likes to pitch in, because Cabrera was laying in wait for that. He missed it. But boy, he took an aggressive pass at it, and why not? You got runners to drive in.
That's a strike. 0-2. Dropping that one in. Richie Schaefer on deck, sitting 6th in the Rays lineup tonight.
Come on, Q, put him away.
Little piece of that one. The off speed. Longoria is at third. Forsythe is on second. And the Rays take advantage of this big opportunity in the first. They have 1 run across. Foul ball back out of play.
Well, putting up a battle, trying to get a ball into the outfield. Right now, the Chicago White Sox defense, they're playing about half, not all the way in, and they're not playing their normal positions. You can see him just kind of stuck there in the middle, and Cabrera just trying to punch something into the outfield to get another run home.
He fouls it again, so a battle. Down 0-2, fouling off 3 pitches.
Yeah, and there was a cross up there between Quintana and Tyler Flowers. Flowers would put himself in a position and was asking for the pitch on the dirt, tapping the ground. So he wanted, right here, he wants the breaking ball down. Quintana fires a fastball. Boy, he's not ready for that. You could see him going down. It's a good thing that ball did get fouled off, or he would have taken a 90-some-mile-an-hour fastball right in that mask.
Quintana 23 pitches into the first inning already. 1 out. And another foul ball. So down 0-2, 4 consecutive pitches fouled away.
And Cabrera, you listen, he's shortened up his swing. We saw the first swing, super aggressive. Now shortening up, battling. And right now, you got to figure Quintana's got to come up with something else, because Cabrera, he's fouled off the good heater and the breaking ball.
Down and in, and blocked by Flowers. Quintana starts the night 6-9, but he's pitched a lot better than that record would reflect. And a cut and a miss. Finally, the fastball, and Cabrera getting down, put up a fight, but eventually out on strikes.
Well, he had to elevate it, and the elevated heater is what got him.
Well, here's Richie Schaefer making his major league debut. 23 home runs between Montgomery and Durham this year. And the first pitch he sees in the major leagues is a fastball wide. His family making the trip into Chicago. His parents, his fiance. Young man out of Clemson. And this one hits him. So he's hit by a pitch to start his major league career.
Okay. don't know how you feel about that. Get that out of the way, I guess. Second pitch that he sees. That ball yanked down and in. Looked to be a cutter, and it caught Richie on that back leg.
Well, it loads the bases. And it also gets Don Cooper, the pitching coach, out of the White Sox dugout. So there you go. In his first big league at bat, there is the ball that hit him. And all of that recorded.
You don't see that very often. You know, first big league at bat, first big league hit, okay, that's great. But hit by pitch on the second pitch.
Ron Porterfield now in charge of safeguarding that memento.
Can't wait to see the one they actually give him.
Well, the bases are loaded. 2 outs. Rays with a run home. Here's Mikey Matuk. Ground ball, fair. Back at third. Saladino gets the force, and the Rays settle for 1, leaving the bases loaded. It's a 1-0 ball game. Lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Adam Eaton will lead off for Chicago, followed by Tyler Saladino. Jose Abreu is the DH hitting third in front of Melky Cabrera, and then Alexi Ramirez. Adam LaRoche hits sixth. Abisail Garcia in right batting seventh. Carlos Sanchez hits eighth. Tyler Flowers, the catcher, bats ninth.
Well, Nathan Carnes has been on a nice run as he's making his 21st start of the season. He's won his last 2. When you go back 2 starts ago, was the start in Philadelphia, 5 shutout with a home run, and then his last outing against the Tigers, 6 innings, 1 earned run, and he did it on just 71 pitches. Height of efficiency.
There are 2 or 3 red-hot hitters in this Chicago White Sox lineup, and Eaton is one of them. 71 on the year and currently an 11-game hitting streak. Carnes started him with a strike. 0-2.
Well, and how about the fact that Adam Eaton, out of the leadoff spot, is tied for second on this team in home runs with 9. This team, outside of Jose Abreu, there's not a whole lot of threat as far as the power goes.
All 9 of those home runs hit by Eaton against right-handed pitching. Eaton hot, Abreu red hot, American League co-players of the week. Just a little piece of that one, a foul ball.
I think you should wait before you reveal who the third scalding hot hitter is, because there's another one in this lineup lurking.
Yes. Pitch up. 2-2. Well, I think the Rays are hoping they'll face him in the second inning.
Oh, look at you. We're not allowed to talk about him till then anyway. It's instructed.
And that is strike 3. Eaton tried to hold up, but he went around. Bob Davidson down there at third, confirming the strikeout.
Well, here's that nasty hook that Nathan Karns will feature. Adam Eaton goes a little too far. And you see behind the plate here, Curt Casali. That's something that he's going to be active with all night long. The curveball from Nathan Karns, 12 wild pitches on the year. So, and he's looking to put away a guy with that. You got to make sure that you're out there blocking it so he doesn't end up down at first base.
Saladino taking a first pitch fastball for a strike. Yeah, with that big curve, the fact that it's a hard curveball makes it even more challenging.
Well, and like anything else or everything else, he's trying to bury that pitch. You know, you want that pitch to start out just above the knees and break to the ankles. Well, you try to bury a pitch like that he spins so hard, it's going to end up in the dirt a lot.
Yeah, the catcher makes the transformation into a goalie on those pitches, really.
No question. And you've got to smother it. You can't have that ball bounding off left or right so that runners don't move up.
It's out of play, and the count is 2-2. Saladino playing third base for the White Sox. Tends to be more of a middle infielder. He's a guy who has come back just recently from serious elbow issues. He had the Tommy John surgery. Missed a good part of last year, but is back now playing third base tonight. Schaefer at first in foul territory. Handles the pop foul. 2 gone.
Well, let's take a quick look at the Rays defense, see how that's going to line up here tonight. Brought to you by BMW. In the outfield left to right, we're going to have Brandon Geyer, Kevin Kiermaier, and Mikey Matuk. And across that infield, third to first, Evan Longoria, Asdrubal Cabrera, Logan Forsythe, Richie Schaefer at first base with Curt Casali behind the plate.
Jose Abreu, the designated hitter. First pitch is a strike. Eaton with an 11-game hitting streak. Abreu out to 13 now.
Well, I like the idea there, not the execution. Jose Abreu is a guy that you have to make him aware of the pitch in. I know he's a big slugger. He's got a lot of power the other way. If you stay away, he can take you out that way. So you've got to come in from time to time.
A ball, 2 strikes.
It's the look of a manager who does not like how the inning is turning out right now.
It's upstairs. It's 2-2. Well, it's been an up and down ride for the White Sox in recent years. Trying time at times for Ventura. There's a pitch in off the plate. We'll take the count to 3-2.
Make them aware. I love that idea, especially early in the game. It's another way to send a message. You know, the way that Kevin Cash had Joey Butler moving, Nathan Karns sending a message to Abreu.
The pitch stayed in, so he walks him. A 2-out pass. Well, tonight's GMC big matchup. Here's the other guy who's very hot. Look at those numbers over his last 11 games. 23 out of 46. And Abreu at first, and here's Cabrera.
Well, you're going to have to pick Abreu off if you want to face Cabrera in the second inning now. It's been given away, Dwayne.
Yeah. Well, Abreu, he was limping down the line after drawing that walk. He fouled the ball off his leg yesterday and still suffering the effects of it here to start this game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a couple of hits to even think about scoring him.
Into short right, and that ball is caught by Montauk. Mikey Montauk comes racing in from right field and makes the grab on the move to retire Cabrera. Nice play by Montauk in right field. And the Rays lead 1-0. Against the left-hander Jose Quintana. The chopper down to first. It's handled by Adam LaRoche. So one pitch and one out. An extended first inning for Quintana. The Rays got just one run, but they left the bases loaded. Now Kurt Casale. Sally at 246 with 7 home runs and 11 runs batted in. He takes a strike. Kurt's now home for his last 12 after hitting 2 home runs in consecutive games in the Detroit series. One and one. Down in front of Charlie Montoyo. Quintana made 29 pitches in that first inning. Managed to get out of it with a minimum of damage done. He's ahead of Casale. And he gets him looking. 2 up and 2 down. Second strikeout for Quintana. Tonight we raise up for Steve Eves at All Children's Hospital. Steve's been one of the great volunteers at All Children's, his most dedicated volunteer, holding numerous leadership posts and donating over 300 hours of time a year. We raise up for health. How do you raise up? Brendan Guyer takes a strike. One ball, one strike. Ground ball sharply hit, and Quintana makes the pickup and throws out Guyer. Guyer thought he might get that one through. 1-0 Rays. Baseball on Sun Sports is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And by Morgan Auto Group. Megan Morgan, we make it happen. From Chicago, the Rays have an early lead. It's a 1-0 ball game. Moving into the bottom of the second. Alexi Ramirez leads off for the White Sox. Then Adam LaRoche and Avisail Garcia. A strike. Carnes with a walk and a strikeout in the first inning. Ramirez with a popper into the outfield, and Forsythe gets out there in short center field to make the catch. Our Toyota trend, the most starts allowing 2 or fewer runs, and look at the company Nathan Carnes is keeping these days.
He's doing exactly what the Rays ask him to do. He goes out, he's pitched extremely well, consistent. Look at, like you said, Sonny Gray, Arch, Felix Hernandez. I mean, getting it done in a big way. And I'll tell you what, he's continued as the season has gone on to earn the trust of his manager. And so he's becoming one of those guys that you have the feel that on certain nights you can get him deeper into a game because of how good and efficient he's been.
Breaking ball for a called strike. It's been skipping to the backstop. 1-1 to count. Carnes starting the night with a .337 earned run average. 2-1. But when you look at what he's done, absent of a handful of his first few outings, his numbers compare favorably to any of the pitchers among the league leaders. He's behind LaRoche, 3-1.
You can't say enough about his confidence. The way that he has thrown the ball so consistently. He just feels he's going to go out and have a good outing each and every time.
And he walks LaRoche. He got the first pitch breaking ball over to get ahead and then lost him.
Well, you know what? He went with his first ball was down in the dirt, wasn't real happy. Then he came to the changeup, left it high. You could see the disgust on his face. He had already put himself into a bad mindset because he was not happy with where the 0-1 and the 1-1 pitch went, and he ends up losing LaRoche. So he's got to regroup here and get back in the zone.
Abisail Garcia. Pitch is down to the White Sox right fielder. Chases this one. It's 1-1.
Well, here in the early going, I'll tell you, Nathan Carnes has a nasty hook working. Boy, he really snapdragons that. When he's able to do that behind in the count, come with that pitch, what a weapon.
Pitch, a fastball in on him then, and he fouled it away.
You know, and that's the thing. Nathan Carnes has a sneaky, fast fastball. You know, that gun reading right there was 93. The swing from Garcia said 95, 96. His ball jumps on you.
And a cut and a miss as he finishes him off. Second strikeout for Carnes.
Boy, another great job on that hook, selling it as a strike, and then it breaks out of the zone and comes right out the bottom. I'll tell you, he's got that pitch, that fastball and curveball mix that he has going here tonight. If he can keep that, it's going to be tough on the White Sox hitters. Very tough.
Carlos Sanchez. Ball, no strikes. It's 2-0. Bottom of the second inning. Fly ball lifted into left. It's caught by Geyer. The man left at first. Through 2, 1-0 Rays. Of the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 13 years. Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, and more every night on every device. Blackouts and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Joey Butler leads it off, and he takes the pitch for a strike. Quintana, after that long 29-pitch first inning, required only 8 pitches to get through the second. Into center, Eaton coming on, and he's going to make the catch. Butler's the first out in the third. Evan Longoria. Evan hit the ball hard on a line to left his first time. It's 1-1.
Well, we've seen more aggressive swings from Evan Longoria, more balls hit with authority to the left side. All great signs.
Shortstop Ramirez handles this one. 2 gone.
Well, at least it was to the left side.
But that's a welcome trend, because when he's swinging the bat the way we've seen him in the past, he'll not only drive the ball to right center, but he hits the ball with authority to the pull field.
That's when you know he's feeling frisky.
Yep.
You know, he'll shoot some balls, like you said, to right center, but when he starts to turn and balls are left center, down the left field line, that's when you know he's feeling good, he's feeling strong, he's getting the bat head out, he's shortening up the swing some.
Forsythe drove in the run with a double his first time. Takes a breaking pitch in for a strike, and that puts him down in the count. 0-2. Rays down in order in the second inning, and the first 2 men retired in the third. Headed out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Ball, he gets a piece of it, fouls it.
Well, we can see that Quintana not straying from his preference to throw these right-handed hitters in with frequency. Fastballs, cutters, the breaking ball off of that. Challenging.
Two balls, 2 strikes.
He pitches almost backwards. Usually it's, you're pitching, you stay away from guys and you come in, here or there. He pitches in and goes away here or there.
Liner into left. There's a base hit off a fastball. Big turn at first, but Cabrera got over there and got the ball back in. Forsythe decided to hang on with a single. Logan is 2 for 2.
Logan's hands are so quick that if he gets the feeling that you're going to keep pounding him in, he can get the hands through the zone. Boy, he does there. Just sweeps that ball out into left field. Well, he has been an absolute pleasure to watch this year.
He's been the most consistent hitter, and you could argue the best hitter in this lineup.
Well, I won't be the one arguing with you over that.
We'll both argue for that.
Yes.
Here's Asdrubal Cabrera lifting it into right. Garcia is there. The Rays are out in the third. No runs, a hit, and one left. Rays lead 1-0. Strongest fan photo. Use hashtag SS Data Strong Fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. Tyler Flowers, the catcher, number 9 hitter, leads off. Inside. We're followed by the top of the order, Adam Eaton and Tyler Saladino. 1-1.
You could see from that swing right there from Tyler Flowers, he has a tendency to get long with the swing. And so you would think, he's a guy that wants that ball down in the zone. You think about the Carnes fastball at the letters. If you're looking for a put-away pitch, well, you could either go with that or that curveball that's been so nasty here tonight if he can get to 2 strikes.
Down with it, and it's 2-1.
There you go. I think that's a hole in the swing here of Tyler Flowers that can be exploited for as long as the Rays see him. I'd go right back up there.
That's down and away. Full count.
Well, he's obviously a big fan of his curveball here tonight, and for good reason. He's thrown a handful of really nasty hooks, but here with Flowers, that elevated heater out over the plate is going to play well. There you go.
And a foul tip strikeout takes care of Flowers with that fastball in that spot. One away here. Right now, we'll check in with Todd Callis. Todd?
Dwayne, some interesting parallels developing between Delmon Young and Richie Schaefer, at least with regards to their debut. Delmon Young, drafted number 1 overall by the Rays in 2003. 3 years later in August, made his debut in this stadium, hit by a pitch in his very first plate appearance by Freddie Garcia. Then he would strike out his first official at bat, hit a 400-plus foot home run, his second at bat, and single in his final at bat. Tonight, Richie Schaefer, drafted in the first round 3 years ago, makes his debut in August in the same stadium. We'll see how the rest plays out.
Well, you can't get to the rest of that line unless you're hit by a pitch your first time. So there's step one. And, you know, I think he would probably take that as a first night in the big leagues if it works out that way. And if it does happen, Todd Callis will, from that point forward, do all of the financial investing for the both of us. If he could get onto that,
done,
and watch it happen,
yeah,
he becomes the soothsayer of this crew.
And I'm going to sneak down when the game's over and splash him with Gatorade, get that hair wet.
1-2 the count to Eaton. And he is called out on strikes. Fastball got him swinging on a curveball the first time, got him looking here in the third.
Well, is it going to be the fastball up in the zone or the hook? How about neither? How about a paint fastball at the knees on the inside corner? Nathan Carnes catching Adam Eaton by surprise.
Two up and two down. Saladino fouled out to first his first time. The pitch is a strike. Saladino played his college ball at Oral Roberts University. This is the fastball, and it's 0-2. Saladino originally out of San Diego. Will be just foul. Carnes making his 21st start of the year. Well, when you break him down, since the 27th of April, his earned run average is 286. And a swing and a foul tip strikeout on the breaking ball. Carnes strikes out the side.
Second time, here's Derek Shelton on what he's looking for tonight.
Kid with big power. We saw it in spring training in the couple games he was with us. So just excited. Anytime you add one of your prospects to the club and the kid that has the potential he does, it's exciting. I think there's some force to it. You know, you're going to see him swing the bat. He's not going to get cheated on some hacks, which is good. When you have the power potential like that, you should get 3 swings in. You should swing the bat, frequently. And I think we're going to see him do that. So I'm excited to see him.
Guys?
Well, here he is, one pitch into his second plate appearance. He's now down 0-2. Schaefer hit by a pitch on his right foot the first time around. He takes it up and in. A ball and 2 strikes. Two and 2. Rays calling up Richie Schaefer, joining the club today, and at 23 home runs in the minor league so far. And after getting down in the count, he goes all the way to 3-2.
Well, he's certainly holding off on that first swing for a while. Let's see it right here.
He has yet to swing at a pitch. Very disciplined, apparently.
Yes.
And a big cut, and he's out on strikes.
Well, he tried to put that ball. I mean, that was a big time cut right there. Full count fastball, and he turns it loose. Got a little bit long. The hand comes off the bat. He certainly didn't get cheated.
So he's been hit by a pitch and struck out. So far, he's on the Delman Young trail in terms of his debut here for the Rays on the south side of Chicago against the White Sox.
Well, I've already made a preliminary meeting with Todd Callis for 9 a.m. tomorrow, so I'm sorry.
Two balls, no strikes to count to Mikey Mantua.
Now, if there's no homer, I'm going to cancel it, of course, but I wanted to get in there.
It's a tough business.
I don't even think I'm going to tell him either. I just won't show. I'm just not going to go.
Yeah, well, if he's not going to give you any spot-on advice, why bother?
And here's the thing. If he's that good, he'll know that I'm not showing.
There's a strike, and that makes sense as to why we from time to time lose track of him.
Yeah, the late night meetings, he's always late too.
He's ahead of all of us.
Yep. He's out there making stuff happen, Dwayne.
And a full count to Mikey Mantua. Schaefer has struck out. Third strikeout for Quintana. Fouled out of play.
Well, this is one area, and you hit Richie Schaefer. No walks yet. Quintana very good at limiting the walks. Just 28 now in almost 139 innings.
Talked him into a walk. Onto a catch to first.
Sometimes you play that reverse game. You talk up a great stat, end up getting a base run.
There does seem to be something to that.
Oh, any time you've got a streak going and it scrolls across, you know, okay, well that's over. That's over because the simple fact that it's why I like the no hitter, the perfect.
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
why
talk
you never
about that
mention
stuff.
that guy has no hitter going.
Nope.
It's Kevin Kiermaier. Took is back in there. Here the Rays have a 1-0 lead. At the top of the fourth. It's a strike on the inside corner to Kiermaier. Kiermaier in there against the lefty. He came into the game hitting .250 against left-handed pitching this year. .246 overall. And you know, you would think, BA, that over time, Kiermaier would see more and more lefties. I mean, he's a guy who plays center field as well as anybody, and is spectacular and exciting doing it.
I mean, let me ask you this. Do you want him out in center field patrolling that for you every day?
If you're on the mound or the manager or a teammate, the answer is absolutely yes, without question.
Then you know what? You're going to have to face left-handed pitching. I would fire him right out there. You see what he's done. Okay, the power. He's not a big power guy anyway. All he's got to do, put that ball in play, let your legs work for you, slap it the other way. They make a mistake, drive it. But I would absolutely play him against most lefties.
By the mound, out at second and safe at first. Just impossible to double him up on anything close to that.
No. You would have to have middle infielders kind of shading up the middle and a rocket hit at somebody that they could get headed down to second base right away. That's your only chance to double him out. Any bouncer, forget it.
You know, the other thing about him, even if his splits were lopsided in favor of hitting against right-handed pitching, and he could still be competitive against lefties, which he is right now. He brings so much in terms of that speed. You hit a ground ball with him, you never know what's going to happen.
No, he beats it out. I mean, the bringing the bunt into the game. If he does get on base, like right here, now you've got to worry about him potentially stealing a base, or at least you have to pay attention to him. You start to divide the pitcher's mind. He can affect the game too many ways to not be out there all the time.
Pitch is high to Casale. Kurt called out on strikes his first time. Takes the count to 1-1. Toronto beat Minnesota today. Toronto 5-1. Baltimore's in Oakland later on tonight. Rays and the White Sox here in Chicago. Well, there's the wild card, and on top of that, how about this? Every team in the American League is within 7.5 games of a playoff spot. That's the whole league. And then you saw the wild card right there.
Well, you add that second wild card team, and really there's no elite teams. I mean, the Yankees, what they've done, okay. You know, the Royals, you know, they're 20 games over 500 in that range, so they've done some nice things. But other than that, you're right, everybody's just bunched up. Everybody's been bunched up waiting for somebody to make a move. And the Rays right in the middle of that pack. But how about the fact that the Rays 2.5 games, you saw that graphic, 2.5 games out of the second wild card, these guys are 3.
Yeah.
But with a bunch of teams in between. I mean, everybody's got a legitimate shot.
Casale is out on strikes. Rays leave a man at first. They lead 1-0. Ladies, you can now take DJ Kitty with you everywhere you go with the DJ Kitty face bag. Presented by Hooters. All ladies can grab theirs while supplies last. Friday, it'll be August 7th when the Rays take on the Mets. For tickets, call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com. Rays up. Speaking of the Mets, they have a chance to move into first place. They started the day tied for first with Washington, and the Mets have a big lead in Miami in the top of the 7th over the Marlins. It's 10-0 there. And Arizona has a lead in Washington over the Nationals 5-0 in the middle of the 8th. Abreu started to go, but he checked in time. Jose Abreu leading off the bottom of the 4th. So the Rays will be seeing the Mets this weekend at Tropicana Field.
After that big trade, Yoenis Cespedes and that outstanding pitching, that'll be a fun series. Well, listen, they're all fun when you get to this point. You start to jockey for position, try to make moves. Postseason baseball coming down the pike in a couple of months. This is when it gets fun. Football starting. Great time of year.
This one driven into right center, slicing away from Kiermaier, bounding off the wall, and Abreu makes his way into second. A two-base hit to open the 4th.
Well, Jose Abreu, he's got pop everywhere. I mean, foul line to foul line power. And this ball, you've really got to drive it to get it outside of the range of Kevin Kiermaier in center field, and that ball was punished out into right center field. And look at Kevin Kiermaier even shading that way, just can't get to it because it was hit too hard.
Well, Abreu with a double. Cabrera lifts a fly ball toward the line a bit, and Geyer's there and left to make the catch. Well, you can see Abreu still not running at top speed. Well, there's how dangerous he is. Pick a field and he's a threat.
Well, and this number right here, that right there represents pitchers not wanting to get beat middle in. They don't want to allow him to turn and burn and drive the ball out to left field, left center field. So you stay away with the idea, make him beat me to the big part. Well, he does.
Can.
He does.
It's Alex Ramirez. Alexi Ramirez takes it down. Ball, no strikes. Yeah, he's still not running well. We mentioned earlier he fouled the ball off his foot yesterday. Stayed in the game, and in that same at bat, he singled with a shot off the center field wall. That's how much that foot was bothering him then. Combination, number one, of how hard he can hit the ball, and number two, he's hobbled by that bad leg. Schaefer takes care of that one off the bat of Alexi Ramirez. Watch him out of the box. You can see him favoring the leg.
And here's the thing. And for the White Sox to score this inning, what you really wanted to see if you're a White Sox guy is get him over, get him in. Something to get him to third. Now you start to think about a base hit, just a single. Is he going to be able to score on a single? That's going to be difficult. You're going to have almost an extra base hit to get him home from second base the way that he's running.
Adam LaRoche, the first baseman. Looks at a strike. Walk LaRoche the first time around. 1-1 the count. Two balls, one strike. Abreu at second. Two and two.
Nathan Karn's taken a page out of the book of Chris Archer. A number of times here tonight when he's fallen behind in the count has come with that curveball. It's not something that you think as a hitter you're going to see. You think of more of that pitch ahead with 2 strikes. But his ability to throw it for strikes behind in the count, huge plus.
Well, the count is full. LaRoche and Carnes both at one time with the Washington Nationals. LaRoche was there in 2011 and was there through last year. Carnes coming up through the national system and pitched in a handful of games for them in 2013. Full count now. And strike 3 call. He got him looking. So a big strikeout on the off-speed pitch. A changeup right here finds the zone. At 12, the player formerly known as B.J. Upton, now Melvin Upton Jr., hit his 100th career home run and became the 8th player in MLB history to reach 100 home runs and 200 stolen bases before the age of 28. Braves lead this game 1-0, and they have the top of the order leading off the 5th. Brandon Guyer out on a couple of ground balls, hit the ball sharply his last time, but back to the pitching. One and one to count. Pop-up foul. It's out of play. Joey Butler next, followed by Evan Longoria. ball holds the count right there. Down the right side, that's out of play. Rays got their run in the first. It was double home by Logan Forsythe. You got Joey Butler across the plate. It's the only run of this game to this point. Tap to third, charged by Saladino, and he makes the play.
You can see on the play right there where you were talking about earlier in the game that Saladino more of a middle infield type of guy. That play was made like a middle infield type of guy. The hands, the way that he throws the ball over to first base, very, very smooth. A short little arm action.
One out. Butler drives this one into right field. Garcia's going to have to go back. Trying to catch it over his shoulder, off his glove. Butler will stop at second, and the Rays get a man into scoring position.
Avisail Garcia just could not get himself into position to make a catch. A catch that should have been made. This ball right over his head, kind of drifting on it, trying to catch that ball over the shoulder, and it's going to go off the glove.
Goes as a double for Butler. And here's a better look at that attempt in right field.
And some more short arm action. He reaches all the way out. He's going to make this play, but kind of running awkwardly back there. Never fully extends.
So the Rays with a runner in scoring position with one out. And Evan Longoria, a count of 1-0. Butler now with a dozen two-base hits this year. Longoria pops it up. That's going to carry out a play. An error in the first row behind the dugout there on that pop foul.
A couple of pop-ups off the glove, off the hand. See if the Rays can cash in.
One ball, one strike. Rays left the bases loaded in the first. Two outs. He had a base hit from Forsythe in the third. Up demand at first base in the fourth inning, and now finally they get another man into scoring position.
Quintana has really knuckled down, and it started with that strikeout of Asdrubal Cabrera with runners on second and third and one out in that first inning.
Roller that's going to get through the left side. Cabrera's going to charge it, and Butler will stop at third. First and third now for the Rays.
Well, Evan able to roll this one to the left side and into the hole. Nobody home. Just a slight hesitation. Not going to be able to score anyway, but he's 90 feet closer.
One out with Forsythe, who is 2 for 2 tonight. And before the White Sox pitch to him, a visit from Don Cooper, the pitching coach. Reminder, in the game tonight and all season long, Tires Plus will donate $100 to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every Tampa Bay Rays home run televised on Sun Sports. Well, it was Forsythe who drove in the only run of this game. That came in the first and third for the Rays as he prepares to bat here in the 5th inning. Down. The first inning run.
Boy, nice job of staying inside that pitch, going the other way. Here's another one of those.
One and one.
That was one of those mistakes that Quintana, you know, when you make that pitch in or attempt to make that pitch in, it had better get in there. And Forsythe, boy, he had a nice swing at that and probably wishes he could have another crack at it.
It's 1-2. Leaving the count, blocked by Flowers. Butler doubled with one out, moved to third on the single by Evan Longoria. Quintana making his 4th career start against the Rays. He's 1-1 against the Rays. Forsythe fouls it to extend the at bat.
Well, the right side for Logan Forsythe is wide open. You've got Carlos Sanchez shading up the middle, and with LaRoche holding Evan Longoria on at first base, that right side of the infield is wide open. And we've seen him use that before, especially here with 2 strikes. You're looking to cover, see the ball a long time, maybe shoot it the other way.
Fly ball into center. Eat lines up to make the catch. Tag at third. Butler's headed to the plate. He'll score without a play, and the Rays pick up their 2nd run. So Forsythe gets the run home on a sacrifice fly.
Yes, he did his job. 2 strikes. Trying to get something out into the outfield. A productive out there for Logan Forsythe. He got that ball deep enough, and one more run. A little bit more breathing room here for the Rays.
Two 2-0 with Longoria at first. And here's Asdrubal Cabrera. He struck out in the first, but had a battling at bat against Quintana before he finally got him. Strike one. Again, thinking about that pitch in.
Do you see how he just, I mean, anticipating it and then cutting it loose? He has taken some big swings here against Quintana. That was a cutter down.
There's a liner into right for a base hit. Up to second moves Longoria. 2 men on with 2 men out. And that's going to get Richie Schaefer back to the plate. Schaefer's been hit by a pitch and has struck out. Schaefer went to high school in Charlotte, North Carolina, went to school at Clemson. Making his major league debut for the Rays tonight. Pitch is down. Ball, no strikes. Schaefer's family looking on here. Looks at the fastball. That's a strike. Schaefer was originally drafted by the Dodgers. That was in the 09 draft. And did not sign to Clemson, and then drafted and signed by the Rays. Big cut. 1-2.
Richie Schaefer trying to cut it loose. He's not getting cheated, but you don't want that swing to be quite that long either.
Fouled it back. Quintana had a 29-pitch first inning. He's about to make his 24th pitch of the fifth. Ball, and it's a ball. 2-2. And he looks at strike 3. That'll retire the side. Rays get a run on the sacrifice fly by Logan Forsythe. It's 2-0. A doubleheader starting with the Dodgers taking on the Pirates. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, the NL Central leading Cardinals battle the Brewers in a game you can only see on Fox Sports 1. Coverage begins at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Rays up by 2. Avisail Garcia leads off the bottom of the fifth, and he looks at a strike. 6 strikeouts for Cards tonight through the first 4. Ties him up.
I don't even think Garcia was swinging at the fastball there. That was way late, way long, almost like he started the swing expecting something else and then just continued through half-heartedly.
And is out on strikes. That finishes him.
I mean, that was abuse. by Nathan Carnes against Aviseo Garcia. Strike one, up and in fastball, strike two, and then how about the curve down and away? Go reach for this.
Boy, that's a good, healthy, hard curveball right there.
Wow. And he's had it working here all night. I mean, really spinning it tight.
Carlos Sanchez takes a fastball away for a strike. He drills that one in there, 0-2. How about that? No ground ball outs tonight. 7 strikeouts and 6 fly ball outs.
For the most part, the fly ball outs have been soft. Nathan Carnes has been on point here tonight. The good fastball, we've seen it up in the zone. We've seen him work it down when he wants it. The good curveball, we've seen some good changeups.
Chopper, Forsythe will take care of that.
Didn't we just throw up a graphic? No ground ball outs. See, it continues. The trend continues. You throw it up there, and here it comes.
The exact opposite happens. Well, 2 outs in the 5th inning. You look back at this White Sox lineup, their offense over the last couple weeks. This is not what they've been doing. They've been averaging 12 hits a game over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They have 1 hit tonight. There's Tyler Flowers. Fastball is fouled back for a strike.
They've been scoring a ton of runs. They've got the 2nd best record since the end of June in the American League. And you're right, they have been absolutely raking as an offense up and down. They already talked about their 3 hitters that aren't just hot, but they're over the top hot. I mean, we're talking, extended periods of time with batting averages above 500, scoring runs.
Well, during that stretch that we mentioned, Eaton, Abreu, and Cabrera have all been extremely hot.
Well, when you have a guy like Nathan Carnes that's putting quality pitches in quality spots, I'm sorry. That's why the whole good pitching will always beat good hitting if it pitches well. If it gets to its spots, you have a hard time putting anything together. You'll get a hit here, a hit there, but piecing together innings against a pitcher who's locating very well is almost impossible.
Full count now.
And I would keep pumping that heater to Tyler Flowers up in the zone. That is a big hole, and it's a pitch that he has trouble laying off of, and he cannot catch up.
3-2. Pops it up off the fastball. Schaefer out from first, making the catch. 1-2-3 go the White Sox to the 6th. 2-0 Rays. Logan Forsythe and a double in the first inning. Logan drove in the second run in the top of the fifth with a sacrifice fly to center, scoring Joey Butler again. And meanwhile, Nathan Carnes has given up just one hit, couple of walks with 7 strikeouts through 5 innings of shutout baseball. We have him at just over 70 pitches through 5. It's efficiency.
He has shown the ability to do that. He just doesn't waste time with hitters. Strike 1, strike 2, try to put you away any way possible.
Mikey Batuk to lead off the 6th. Breaking ball in for a strike. Batuk reached in the 4th when he walked. It's 1-1. Nathan Carnes, since the All-Star break, has worked 16 innings, allowing 7 hits and 1 earned run. Batuk behind in the count. Tried to check his swing on a pitch in the dirt and is out on strikes. We're gone here in the 6th. Trichka up in the bullpen. The White Sox. Quintana approaching 100 pitches. Jake Trichka loosens. 1 ball, the count to Kiermaier. It's a 2-0 count. Baldelli out of the way, a foul ball, 2-1. Coming into this game, Chicago had won 8 of its last 11. Down to first. LaRoche will make the play unassisted. Strikeout and a ground out. 2 gone. Transform your outfit with a Rays fedora. Come on down to Tropicana Field Saturday the 8th of August. Watch the Rays battle the Mets and receive a Rays fedora while you're at it. For tickets and more info, call 888-FAN-RAYS. Pay a visit to RaysBaseball.com. Well, the Sox have that version, and the Rays have their Rays fedora version available during the New York Mets series. Strike the count to Kurt Casale. A couple of strikeouts for Kurt tonight.
Kurt is going through that phase where, you know, he had a run of success, got everybody's attention. They're saying, okay, what pitch is he hammering? It's the mistake heater out over the plate. Okay, well, now we're going to start pitching in, out. He's seen a lot of soft stuff. So the adjustments that pitchers will make and hitters, of course, then have to readjust. Constant cat and mouse game.
2-2.
You know, even that swing right there was not nearly as aggressive as what we've seen from Casale, you know, not that long ago. That was kind of feeling for the baseball in a 2-1 count, and that tells you that there's a lot going on in that hitter's mind right now.
And it's tough to hit with a cluttered mind.
Oh, tough to do anything with a cluttered mind.
Yeah, we're walking examples of that. Keep it simple. Sally's out on strikes. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Quintana. Rays lead 2-0. Minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. By Checkers, mix and match our famous Big Buford and Big Chicken Deluxe. Get 2 for $5. And by Ford, introducing the all-new Ford F-150, the future of tough. Top of the order for Chicago. Adam Eaton, and he looks at that breaking ball down around the knees. Strike 1. Eaton red hot at the plate, 0 for 2 tonight, and he attempts to bunt that one. 2 strikes.
That's when you know a pitcher is locked in. When you got guys that are like, you know, swinging the bat has been futile. Let's go up there, lead off guy. You know, we're only down 2 runs. We need a base runner, and you're trying to bunt your way on because Nathan Kearns has been that good.
The 2-strike pitch skied into center, and Kiermaier is right there to make the catch. Well, what a great job so far tonight by Nathan Kearns.
He just continues to impress. I mean, what can you say? We bring up the fact that the 15 out of 20 starts, 2 earned or fewer. Talk about that, highlight the company that he keeps in regards to that stat, and he just continues to pitch well.
Well, we've seen him all night, and I think that at bat to Eaton was a good example. He's utilized the fastball, the curveball, and the changeup, and they've all been effective for him.
See the mound presence too, the way he's carrying himself. He knows he's locked in, and he's walking around, you know, that mound like, listen, this is my deal, and I'm in complete charge of this game.
Yeah, he's running the meeting, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
1-1 the count to Tyler Saladino. Line drive to center. There's a base hit off the fastball. Second hit given up by Carnes. One on, one out. Here's another look.
Well, down and away, not a bad spot to go with it, but Saladino, just a nice job of extending and driving that ball the other way. That was a nice job by Tyler on a pretty good pitch there by Nathan Carnes.
Well, here's Jose Abreu. You always worry when this guy comes to the plate. He has walked and doubled. Double was into right center. High shot deep to center. Kiermaier all the way to the wall. He's going to leap. And did he make the catch? He's down on the warning track. And that ball is gone. Boy, what an effort by Kiermaier. He went all the way to the wall, leaping, trying to bring that one back. And it's a home run for Jose Abreu to tie the game at 2.
I mean, how quickly it can turn. A nice job of hitting by Saladino. And then Jose Abreu, we know all about his power. A curveball doesn't quite get to its spot. He drives it to center. He thinks he's got it. And Kevin Kiermaier, he thinks that he's going to come down with it. And you can see him jump right there at the wall, kind of trying to time that jump and make a play. I mean, just over the tip of that glove.
Well, now the umpires are going to get together. Kevin Cash coming out. And the umpires are going to confer on what happened out there in center field.
I don't know what you could possibly think happened there. It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it would be a guess at fan interference, but it didn't appear, at least on the shot that we had, that that was the case.
Absolutely not. I don't even know if you can reach it. That ball clearly over the top of Kevin Kiermaier's glove. I mean, that's should be a short look.
So on back-to-back pitches, Saladino singled on a fastball, and Abreu hit the curveball out to center field to tie the game. Kiermaier came so close to catching that ball and then was sprawled on the warning track. Took a while for everybody in the park to figure out what exactly had happened out there. So Abreu hits the home run. It's tied, and that's going to be the end of the evening for Carnes. for Carnes. 79 pitches. And he gives way to Brandon Gomes. Well, that says it all right there for Carnes.
I mean, it just, I don't even want to say unraveled. You know, he gave up a hit to Saladino on a good pitch.
Yep.
Okay. And Jose Abreu, who's a pretty strong guy, hit a curveball out to center field, cleared the wall by a couple of feet. So those two hits, and all of a sudden, all that good work that he had done erased, and out of the game he goes.
2-0 the count to Cabrera. Melky Cabrera, as we saw earlier, 23 of his last 46 coming into this game. Just Forsythe making this play. Cabrera is the second out of the inning. It's amazing how quickly things change. You know, Carnes facing Adam Eaton, who'd been red hot for the third time, just schooled him and got him on a fly ball to center. 1-1 to Saladino. Pretty good pitch. He got a base hit. And then Abreu, one of the few people that strong to hit it out the way he did. Hit it out.
Well, you know, and that's the thing. You end up coming out of the ball game. I mean, it's that third time through. You know, some of the younger Rays starters that they try to avoid. How many times have we seen, you know, 5 innings of shutout baseball, 5 innings of 1-run baseball, and you come out without giving up anything else? I mean, that's just the way that the game it has changed, and the way that the Rays are running their bullpen. And you don't necessarily have to like it, agree with it. You know that Nathan Carnes still wants to be out there, but that third time through, you make a mistake to Jose Abreu, and that will end your night, period.
One and 2 the count to Alexi Ramirez. 2-2. Brandon Gomes out here for the Rays, worked 1 inning Thursday. Gave up a couple of hits and a run to the Red Sox. Count is full. Center, Cabrera is out there from shortstop to make the grab. 2-run score on one swing of the bat from Jose Abreu. We have completed 6 in Chicago. The game is tied 2-2. The Data Strong fan photo of the game. Tweet your strongest fan photo to hashtag #SSDataStrongFan for a chance to be featured in an upcoming broadcast brought to you by T-Mobile. That was a strong fan photo.
You know what that was? I know what that was. That was the in Kansas City when they evacuated the press box because of the storms and tornadoes that were in the area, and they put us in that that tunnel that is underground between Arrowhead Stadium and Kauffman Stadium. That's exactly where that was.
And they had been wanting to put us in that tunnel for a long time. Finally got a chance.
They did with 1,500 of our closest friends. It was really, really cool and well ventilated down there.
Grady Sizemore will pinch hit as he faces Jake Petrichka, the right-hander out of the White Sox bullpen. So Sizemore bats in the place of Geyer. 6 innings for Quintana, 2 runs, 7 hits. Made 109 pitches. Slow to Sizemore. The count is 1-1. Ball and 2 strikes. Liner into right. That's going to get past Garcia. Sizemore is going to dig for 2, and with Garcia having a little trouble making the pickup, now the throw back in, it's loose, and Sizemore is going to go to third. So the Rays get a man at third base with only, well, look at that, a double and an error charged to Garcia. He's having all kinds of issues out there.
Boy, he looks completely disinterested in playing right field here tonight. Grady Sizemore, number 1, a nice job of staying back on the changeup by Petrichka, and then that throw wide of Sanchez, and that's going to allow Grady to move up to third base, prime position to score now. Nobody out, 90 feet away.
Pinch hit double for Sizemore. The move to third on the error. John Jaso is hitting for Butler. Butler was 2 for 3 and scored both runs tonight. And with the right-hander on the hill, Jaso in to hit. Infield up for Chicago. One and one. Two balls and a strike.
Well, that's back-to-back 96-mile-an-hour fastballs with late movement that Petrichka's trying to take to the inside corner. 2 very good, very close pitches did not get the call, and that gets the count in Jaso's favor.
Ground ball, a diving stop at first. LaRoche kept the ball within reach and steps on the bag. Boy, that's a big, big play for Chicago.
That's 3-2 Rays. Jaso at second, and with Garcia, maybe he's at third. Who knows? But what a play by Adam LaRoche.
Take another look. You know, Adam LaRoche was only 10 or 11 years old when Robin Ventura played for the White Sox. And LaRoche's dad, Dave LaRoche, was a bullpen coach here. So as 10 or 11, Ventura would play catch with Adam LaRoche. to help develop his skills. He's happy he did right now. Evan Longoria bouncing one foul. Strike one. Well, the Rays still trying to get the go-ahead run across. But boy, what a play by LaRoche down at first. One and one. Trichka in relief of Quintana. Rays got a run in the first, left the bases loaded. They got a run in the fifth inning and left 2 men on in that frame. A leadoff double and some help from the error in right, sending Sizemore to third. He's there with 1 out. 2 balls and a strike. Bullpen area that gives the Rays the lead, and Longoria is going to wind up at second with a double. Boy, he scorched that one just fair. Bob Davidson on the call, and the Rays now lead 3-2.
But what did we say earlier? Fastballs, pitches on the inner half that Evan Longoria is getting the head out on for extra bases. This was a high velocity fastball that he ropes right down the third base line. That was a bullet off the bat of Evan Longoria. Another extra base hit, another run for the Rays.
3-hit night for Longoria. Now it's Logan Forsythe. Ball, no strikes. The Rays have answered the Abreu home run with a run here in the 7th to regain the lead.
And that's a great answer. This Chicago White Sox team was held at bay by Nathan Karns for a long time. They tie it up, and immediately the Rays answer. 3 hitters in.
2-0 to Forsythe. Quintana's going to get another no decision, and boy, he leads the world in no decisions, not only this year but during his young career. 3-0. Takes that one for strike one. Rays have 9 hits tonight. 3 runs. It's another big one to try to pick up out there in second. Longoria. We have a full count now on Logan Forsythe.
Yeah, just a little bit over anxious there by Logan. I don't see him too often going outside of the strike zone, especially when the count's in his favor. But swung at that 3-1 off-speed pitch in the dirt.
Ground ball, third. Saladino makes the throw to first. Longoria still at second with 2 outs. Well, as Drupal Cabrera is due up for the Rays, Don Cooper, the White Sox pitching coach, on his way to the mound again. Quintana for 6. Petrichka on here in the 7th inning. Zach Duke is up in the bullpen. MLS Soccer Sunday continues this week with the New York Derby as the Red Bulls take on the New York City FC at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1, sponsored by Audi. Cooper has his say. Cabrera, Rays switch hitting shortstop. He had a hit 3 at bats against Quintana from the right side. Now turning around to hit left-handed against Petrichka. They're going to walk Cabrera intentionally, with Schaefer due to hit next.
Well, make them pay then.
Yep. Well, the White Sox are thinking veteran hitter who's had some battling at bats tonight. They'd rather face the rookie making his major league debut than the veteran hitter with a man in scoring position.
And I think that they like, obviously, the way that Petrichka's fastball matches up with Schaefer's swing. I mean, they've seen him take some long swings here tonight, thinking that maybe Petrichka can power that fastball by him. We will see.
Well, a big spot for the young hitter. Schaefer hit by a pitch in the first, a couple strikeouts since then. And here he is with a run home. Rays lead 3-2. 2 men on and 2 men out. Been a big spot. This would be an opportune time to collect his first major league hit. First pitch inside. Fastball. Chops it foul. 1-1. Rays recalling Richie Schaefer, their first round pick from 2012. Clemson, he had 23 home runs between AA Montgomery and AAA Durham. Most of those for the Durham Bulls. Down in the count 1-2.
Well, this was an off speed. You see the changeup grip. 88 miles an hour bottoming out, and now you got to be ready to cover it all.
Two and two. Schaefer playing with his family looking on, making his major league debut.
Come on, Pet Rock, put him away.
Two. And the count's going to go full. Rays with a couple doubles in this inning to take the lead. And at first and second, 2 outs and a full count. So they'll be leaving with the pitch. And all 4. There's the walk to Schaefer.
Boy, Jake Petrichka he had him set up perfectly, 1-2, and then really wasn't even close on any pitch after that, and ends up losing him. And now you put yourself in a spot. The Rays chance to capitalize here.
Montauk up here.
Hey, look for that heater. Get the head out. Get it started early.
Cutting a miss on the fastball. Strike one. 1 to count, 0-2. Took out on strikes. So the Rays leave them loaded for the second time in this game, and they get the lead. Kevin Longoria ripped the double up the left field line, scoring Grady Sizemore. 3-2 Rays. Of the 7th inning tonight in Chicago, left-hander Xavier Cedeno is on for the 43rd time here for the Rays.
Well, he's coming into a ball game where he's going to try to protect a 1-run lead. It's going to be a bullpen night here for the next few innings for the Rays.
James Loney also enters the game. He's at first base. Geyer was lifted for the pinch hitter, and so Grady Sizemore stays on to play left field here in the 7th. Adam LaRoche leads it off. Pitch outside, 1-0. Cedeno pitched 2/3 of an inning in Boston yesterday. Picked up a strikeout. A big cut. 1-1 to count to LaRoche. Look out, a foul ball through the on-deck circle and off that low wall just to the left of the screen. One and two now. Breaking ball, and he takes it outside. 2-2. Steve Geltz is throwing in the Rays bullpen. Red Sox have LaRoche leading off, then Garcia, right-handed hitter, and Sanchez, a switch hitter, to follow him. stays alive, slicing that one foul.
Well, it's got to be all matchups from here on out. A lot of this stuff predetermined before a ball game, what relievers that Kevin Cash and Jim Hickey want on what hitters, what part of the order.
And cutting them is LaRoche out on strikes. Cedeno gets the leadoff hitter, and now Kevin Cash comes out to make another pitching change. Cedeno on to face the left-handed hitter. We'll be right back. Want to be with us tomorrow. Chris Archer on the hill looking for his 10th win. He's 9-8, and Chris Sale will do the pitching for the White Sox. Coming up tomorrow on Rays Live, the pregame show presented by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. We'll hear from Chris Archer, and Orestes will break down Melky Cabrera's hot streak. Sale 9-6 in the 320 earned run mark. We'll be with you at 7:30 Eastern Time, leading up to the first pitch.
Archer's chewing on somebody in that dugout.
Yeah, and I'm not sure Odorizzi's buying it.
No.
Well, here's Steve Geltz. Geltz to face Avisail Garcia. 51st appearance for Geltz. The pitch is a strike. Cedeno, a third of an inning. It's Carnes for 5 1/3. Gomes 2/3. Cedeno a third. And here's Geltz. Into left center field. Golfed out there. Kiermaier cuts it off, but Garcia's on his way to second with a double.
Avisail Garcia has had a rough night out in right field. He could not solve Nathan Carnes at all, but that breaking ball by Steve Geltz, he certainly recognized this pitch. Trying to go down and away, but look at him just follow it down. That shows you how strong he is. That ball down there just below the knees, one hand coming off the bat, and still strokes it out there. Kevin Kiermaier able to cut that ball off and get it in quickly, but to no avail.
So Garcia at second, and now here's Sanchez. And the pitch is a strike. Sanchez, switch hitting infielder. And a fly ball to left and is grounded out to second base. Oh, and this one skips beyond Casale. A wild pitch, and over to third goes Garcia.
That is obviously not what you needed here. Less than 2 outs. And now the runner just 90 feet away. Jim Hickey headed out to the mound. That pitch was going to be difficult for Casale to handle. I mean, that was, you're going to see it right here. This pitch pulled, and Casale coming all the way across. It's off his arm and into the stands.
Well, a big conference on the hill. Tough spot right after the Rays came back to grab the lead. Now with only 1 out, and Garcia, the potential tying run at third. Sanchez up with a 1-1 count.
And you know, with Garcia, we'll see where the Rays play their infielders. I don't know if you have to come all the way in, although they are right on the cut.
And a high fly ball back into right field. Matuk is going to run out of room, and that one is gone. Sanchez unloads a 2-run home run, his 3rd home run of the year, and the White Sox lead 4-3.
You know, the White Sox came into this ball game tied for last in the American League in home runs with the Kansas City Royals. Jose Abreu, you understand. Carlos Sanchez, you're not expecting this, but boy, did he get the bat head through the zone in a timely manner. And this ball, he knew it. He's waving goodbye.
There's Tyler Flowers. Pitch is down. So Sanchez, hitting only his 3rd home run of the year, has given Chicago the lead for the first time tonight. It comes in the 7th. 1-1 now. Ball, 2 strikes. All 3 of the home runs hit by Sanchez this year have come in the last 10 games. He went 60 games in without a home run, and in the spread of 10 games has now hit 3. And boy, this one is tough to take for the Rays. Stayed low coming off the turf, but Forsythe made the play, stationed up the middle. 2 gone.
That ball stayed down and kind of bounced to Logan Forsythe's right. He had to have quick hands. Talking about his quick hands as a hitter, had to have quick hands there as a fielder to make that play.
Ball back, out of play by Eaton. Sanchez hit home runs on back-to-back games against the Indians in Cleveland on the 25th and 26th of July. And now this home run tonight. Those are the only 3 home runs he has in his Major League career. One and two the count to Adam Eaton. 2-2. He chases the pitch up. So that retires the side, but not before. Carlos Sanchez belts a 2-run home run. We go to the 8th. It's 4-3 Chicago. St. Preux took only seconds to destroy a legend. Saturday, watch two of the sport's most ferocious heavyweights collide on UFC Fight Night. Coverage beginning at 10 p.m. Eastern only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. It's 4-3 now. Chicago leading the Rays. We go to the 8th. Kevin Kiermaier will lead off, and he'll be facing the left-hander Zach Duke. Pitch outside. Casale due next, and then Sizemore. The ball lifted toward left for Cabrera. One away. 47th appearance for Duke.
41 in the third innings, 40 strikeouts. Obviously, you've seen the arm angle. Tries to get out around the lefties, almost coming from behind him. Right-handed hitters will get a better look, but it doesn't make a whole lot easier to hit Duke.
Kurt Casale trying to snap it home for 15.
You've seen the last handful of swings from Kurt Casale. They have not been definitive. They've not been aggressive. Kind of just like feeling for the baseball, not turning it loose like we've seen from him when he was red hot hitting all those home runs. Like I said, you see a hitter that's just kind of feeling for the baseball and not really, selling his swing as aggressive, then you wonder what's going on up in his mind.
One and two. 2 strikes. Comes up with this one. 2 up, 2 down in the 8th. Grady Sizemore against the lefty. No strikes. High shot, deep into right center. That ball is gone. Home run, Sizemore. Tie ball game. Grady Sizemore powers one out of here into right center field. 4-4.
Zach Duke had given up 6 home runs coming into this appearance, and boy did he throw a hanger to Grady Sizemore. Already you're facing a tough arm angle, but when you spin one up there like this, boy oh boy, that just stays right out over the middle of the plate. And the reaction to Zach Duke, he didn't even need to look back, knew it was gone.
Smiles all around there on that blast. Now Tim Beckham hits. The DH spot originally occupied by the right-handed bat of Joey Butler. Then J-Cell came on. Pitch hit in the 7th. Beckham is hitting here in the 8th. Chopped down to first. That's handled by LaRoche, who retired the side. Rays get the tying run on the last by Sizemore. summary brought to you by Gold and Diamond Swords. A tie game. Rays with 4 runs on 10 hits. White Sox 4 runs, 5 hits. The Rays runs batted in. Evan Longoria with 1, 2 for Logan Forsythe, and 1 from Grady Sizemore, the home run to tie the game.
All right, Tyler, let's get it.
Late action and good answers by the Rays.
A couple of 2-run home runs by the White Sox. Jose Abreu and Carlos Sanchez. Jake McGee, the new Rays pitcher, in his first pitch to Tyler Saladino, is upstairs.
Come on, Tyler.
Foul out of play. 3 different blown leads here in the last 2 innings. Cedeno came on and got 1 out. That qualified him for a hold, the Rays' 79th hold of the year, which is easily the top number in that department in the major leagues. Cut the miss. It's 1 and 2, but a different story since then. Geltz tagged for the home run. Duke tagged for the home run. And we're tied 4-4. Saladino is out on strikes. Baseball poured past him.
Well, you know, interesting. Jake McGee's been getting a lot of work here over the last 4 days. Been in 3 ball games, and we've seen the fastball. He's able to overpower Saladino on that particular fastball, but 92 to 94 on the heater. And it's funny because when he was warming up, I'm sitting here watching Jose Abreu size him up and Saladino and thinking to myself, that fastball doesn't have that same jump. Maybe it's just because of warm-ups, we'll see, but we haven't seen it yet so far.
Well, here's a test, and Jose Abreu. First pitch is a strike. See 94 on that one. A walk, a double, and a home run for Abreu tonight.
Yeah, this will get the velocity going. This will be the at-bat, you see it.
Fly ball back into center field. Kiermaier on the run, and he makes the catch on this one. Boy, Abreu is just so dangerous up there.
Well, and he knows that he's getting the heater. That's the thing. I mean, we've seen Jake McGee use the breaking ball more, but Abreu is going to sit on that heater. He gets one, very little in a stride. He stays balanced. He's got good power. This one, Kiermaier's able to track down.
2 gone.
Come on, Milky.
Melky Cabrera. Sends a fly ball into right center. Matuk is there for this one. And 1, 2, 3 go the White Sox. We'll go to the 9th with Evan Longoria to lead off for the Rays in a tie game. Yankees fans for 18 years. By Kubota. For more information, go to FloridaKubotaDealers.com. And by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Navy Pier here in Chicago. Rays and the White Sox on the south side, moving into the 9th inning. David Robertson, the former New York Yankee, will go to the mound for the White Sox, making his 40th appearance.
Well, 22 out of 27 in saves, 58 strikeouts in 41 innings, just 10 walks, a very good opponent's average. No save in order here tonight for the White Sox, so Robertson on, and Evan Longoria to the plate. He's been swinging the bat well lately.
Evan, a 3-hit night. See there, 2 for 13 in his career against Robertson. Chops it down to third. Saladino's throw to first. And that's the first out. 1 pitch, 1 out. Look at Logan Forsythe up there. Logan with just 1 career at bat against Robertson. He's 0 for 1. Strike. It's 1-1.
Robertson, the fastball, cut it. Seen some good breaking balls here. Good depth, good velocity.
All right, put him away, David.
2-2. Right-hander out there in his first year with the White Sox. The count is full. Back. Home run by Sizemore, tied it in the 8th. Side this battle being down on the count. We'll see his second 3-2 pitch. Earns himself another one.
Man, that was a tough pitch there by David Robertson. And that's all you're trying to do. Foul off those tough pitches and get one mistake that's out over. And the more that you see a pitcher, the more comfortable you get with this stuff.
And there's ball 4. Rays get a base runner. Robertson, throughout his career, especially over the last few years, has been very stingy on the walk. He gives up one to Logan Forsythe, and that'll be Asdrubal Cabrera. Cabrera Cabrera walked intentionally his last time after coming up with a base hit on a line into right in the 5th. 1-0. Runner goes. The pitch lined into right. That's going to drop for a base hit. On his way to third, Forsythe. The Rays put men on the corners.
Well, staying aggressive throughout this game. As far as sending runners, trying to make something happen. David Robertson with the walk, uncharacteristic. Put Forsythe in motion. As Drupal Cabrera, the veteran hitter, knows he's going to get something moving in towards him. That cutter. He shoots it into right field, and well, now you've got a real chance. First and third with one.
Cabrera picking up his first career hit in his 8th at bat against Robertson. First and third. James Loney will bat. He entered the game at first in the 7th. Gets his first plate appearance in the 9th. Against Robertson.
And in these types of situations, you want a guy up there that's got a good game plan, not going to stray from it. Try to lift that ball into the outfield. Stay off the ground.
And there's one up the right side. That ball is going to be a foul ball. Just foul down the right field line. Well, that was the general idea, except foul.
Yeah, and off the bat, boy, oh boy, it looked good and just floated foul. And now David Robertson is putting himself in a position to try to go for the strikeout here on James Loney. The ball just continues to hook. 2 feet foul.
Loney delivered the go-ahead run at Boston yesterday.
Put him away, Dave.
On the looping single to center in the 8th. Low covered up by Flowers. Ball 1.
6-4-3.
Forsythe at third. Cabrera's at first. Ball game tied 4-4 in the top of the 9th inning. Back in at first. And Loney come through for the 2nd straight day. Came close on that last pitch.
Come on, David.
1 ball, 2 strikes now. And he's out on strikes. Robertson gets a big out, 2 gone.
It's that breaking ball with great depth. And Robertson down and in. James Loney trying to get it started. That ball coming in on him. And it just takes itself right out of the zone, and he does get the big all-important strikeout.
2 outs with men on the corners, and Mikey Montook is the hitter. Montook 0 for 3 with a walk. This is a tie game, so a non-save situation. Robertson has not given up an earned run in 13 innings in non-save situations. But he gives up one here. Line drive into left, and the Rays will take the lead. Forsythe scores on the base hit lined into left by Mikey Montouk. 5-4 Tampa Bay.
I like the way you think, partner. You just keep throwing stuff out there that's never happened. And guess what? The way it's going tonight has not given up a run in these types of situations. Well, how about that? A hanger right out over the plate, right into the swing of Mikey Montouk, and he laces a single to left, and the Rays do score a run and take the lead.
5-4, the Rays have battled back. Montouk with the big hit here in the ninth. It's Kevin Kiermaier. Strike one, he misses the fastball. Kiermaier with one prior at bat against Robertson. 0 for 1. Two. The one-out walk to Forsythe has been converted into a run. Cabrera is now at second. Montouk at first. The infrequent walk. And the Rays take advantage of that to score the go-ahead run. Popper, short center. Ramirez backpedaling has it. And the Rays are out in the ninth. But they pick up the lead run. The base hit by Mikey Montouk, scoring Logan Forsythe. And the Rays lead 5-4. Presented by AT CHA comes courtesy of Mikey Montouk in the top half of this inning, lining a base hit to left.
How about David Robertson? Was able to overpower him with the first pitch, cut fastball, and then comes back with a breaking ball and he hung it, and Montouk made him pay. And now the Rays 3 outs away from victory.
Brad Boxberger takes over on the hill for the Rays for the 47th time. Boxberger was very, very good yesterday.
Well, he could have just sent his defense into the dugout early. Say, I got this. Casale and I are going to go to work and end this thing. And that's exactly what he did. Struck out the side in preserving that win.
He will face Alexi Ramirez to open the bottom of the ninth. Adam LaRoche and Avisel Garcia due to follow. First pitch taken for strike one. The fastball from Boxberger.
We see that so often against Brad Boxberger. Hitters in the ninth inning take that first pitch strike, and that plays right into his hand, because more times than not, he's up 0-1, and then here he goes.
Miss 1-1.
Well, it's the fastball, the changeup, the occasional breaking ball, but in these tight situations, it usually stays fastball change.
And there's the change way out in front. 1-2.
Think about the miles per hour differential. He went from 95 to 80. Yeah, you hope to get that 8 to 10 between your fastball and changeup. 15
with the same look.
It's not fair.
Ground ball, that's headed up the middle. Through into center, back to the fastball, and Ramirez is aboard.
Well, he tried to go up. Alexi Ramirez, his swing can get long, and guys with long swings can a lot of times be beat up. You see where Casale wanted that, and Boxberger not quite able to get it there, and Ramirez is able to find a hole in the middle of the field.
Well, of those hitters in this lineup who faced Boxberger, Ramirez is the only guy to have a hit off him, and he's now 2 for 2 against him. Adam LaRoche 0 for 2 tonight with a walk, couple strikeouts. The pitch is a strike at the knees. Well, LaRoche made a great play back in the 7th that prevented the Rays from potentially having a very big inning. They settled for 1 run. Big cut, and that caught Casale.
Trying to extend that swing, and you're right, as LaRoche comes around, watch him clip Casale. Ball right on the mask.
An 0-2 count on the Chicago first baseman. Runner takes off, pitch is down, and there's no throw. Ramirez steals second without a play.
Well, Alexi Ramirez, Adam Eaton, those are your stolen base threats. This team overall not very good at the stolen base. They don't steal many, they get thrown out a ton. Those two guys are your two best, and Ramirez got that one standing up. Boy, he gives a huge jump. Brad Boxberger never even looked at him, and he just glides into second base.
On second with nobody out. The 1-2. Line drive and a base hit into center. Kiermaier up with it. Ramirez going to try to score. Throw. They're going to get him at the plate. He is out as he tried to leapfrog the tag. And Casale put it on him.
What was Joe McEwing thinking over there at third base? You've got one of the best defenders, and he got to that ball early. Alexi Ramirez was at third base as Kiermaier was making the throw. That's just too easy for the Rays. Instead of having first and third and nobody out, way too aggressive and not even aggressive, reckless. Look at it, Kiermaier's got the ball already, and he's shallow. That's just too easy.
LaRoche for the base hit. Ramirez thrown out at the plate. Kiermaier picking up his 12th assist.
Yeah, I think Kiermaier was thinking that throw came in hot and low. Casale did a nice job at digging it out and making the tag, but boy, oh boy, what a break for the Rays.
Lurie Garcia is going to run at second for LaRoche. And here's Abisail Garcia. The pitch is a strike. Fastball Nice big swing there. Couple hits here in the ninth with a man thrown out at the plate. Two strikes the count on Garcia. And he strikes him out. Fastball, 2 gone.
Boy, there was we're trying to be shady at all here. How about just pumping 3 heaters at the top of the strike zone and just overmatching Avisail Garcia right there? I mean, that ball's out over the plate. Not even up as far as Casale wanted it, but matters nonetheless.
Well, now the hitter is going to be Carlos Sanchez, whose home run in the 7th inning. The second 2-run home run of the night for the White Sox at the time gave Chicago a 4-3 lead. So here he is with a man at second, 2 gone, and he's out in front of the changeup. Strike 1. Here's the home run in the 7th. Ball that's headed out of play. Garcia, the runner, at second, 2 outs, 2 strikes the count on Sanchez. And the check swing foul ball. We'll see one more pitch. Upstairs are the big guys, and these 2 respective bullpens playing a role tonight. David Robertson right now the pitcher of record for Chicago. Jake McGee the pitcher of record for the Rays, and Boxberger's trying to finish it. 1-2. Up again. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Liner into right. Gonna be caught by Montook, and the Rays win it. Sanchez with a line drive into right, and the Rays finish this one off with a 5-4 victory. Right.